they will now come onto the stage. So please welcome.
Hey guys.
Hello.
How's it going? Thanks for being here.
And I think they may know who all of you are, but just to do it, we just thought we'd just go down and let you guys each introduce yourselves, and then we can start with questions.
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Elena. I played Abaddon. Is that what you're supposed to do? 5'9", I'm an Aries.
He knows. Hi, I'm Shoshana Stern, and I'm Eileen, Mrs. Natural. And I'm sorry to have.
That is very important.
Yes, it is very important.
Hey guys, I'm DJ Qualls and I play Gar.
And I'm also Chai. I played Kevin Tran.
So they will roughly be here for an hour, so we'll have questions. Don't be shy. So raise your hand really good if you'd like to ask a question. I'll get the microphone to you.
I have a question real fast. Hey Phil, so somebody who's a guest here, my best friend is here. He lives in Huntsville. That guy right there. So Phil, one of the guests needed a masseuse. Did you give somebody the number of a masseuse? Okay, great. Now we got that out of the way.
Great first question.
Can we all have the name of the masseuse?
I know. Yeah.
Do they come to your room?
It's a legitimate place.
Not for me.
This will be a long panel if we don't get you guys to ask questions. Go in the back, okay? I'll come back to you guys right after that. I'll make the walk that I lose the most breath at first.
Hello.
Hey.
I was wondering, I know you guys got pranked a lot. What was the worst prank I got on set?
Worst prank?
From Jason and Jared.
Oh, I mean, who else? Does anyone else prank apart from Jared and Jensen?
No.
I don't know. I never got pranked. I always just thought they were scared of me.
Yeah, I think they were.
I got pranked all the time. They were definitely not scared of me. Jared sprayed fart in a can all on my trailer one day. Another time, I hate mayonnaise more than anything on the planet. I hate mayonnaise. And I went to open my trailer door, and he'd taken mayonnaise and put it all in the handle. So I was mad. That was the only time I ever got mad at him for anything. I got really mad. I was sitting there going, oh, it makes me mad. So you guys know Ty Olsson, who plays Benny on the werewolf, the vampire, he used to live with me in LA, and when he would go out of town, I would throw his mayonnaise away. That's how much I hate it, right? And the other thing that Jared did was, so there was a scene where I was playing, because I would always show up and be like an FBI guy, but never wear a suit. So I was playing another character. I think I was playing a guy named Corporal Bobby Brown, and I went to a morgue, and Jared was to look at a file. I take it from him, open the file, and read sort of the coroner's report. And Jared had taken the paper, turned over the page, and drew stick figures doing terrible things to each other to try to get to the break. So they were always doing that.
God. That's pretty bad. I don't think they messed with me, like, little things, like anytime we were doing a scene and I had to open a door, they'd be on the other side, like jamming the door closed. Like they don't like to be that productive sometimes. They're really good at their jobs, but they're also really good at not being good at their jobs if they want to be. I guess the worst one was I had a big frying pan one time, and it was a fake. It was a real frying pan that I was using, but I didn't know they had a fake one. And so at one point, I was just talking to the director, and Jared just was like, "Hey, Oz," and he just throws the frying pan at me. I thought it was the 20-pound cast iron frying pan, but it turns out to be a rubber one. So I didn't get it too bad, thankfully. No one was scared of us.
Did you get pranked? Oh,
Whoa.
I actually got a prank in on those two.
Whoa, let's hear it.
It's 4. So they wanted me to teach them some signs. I can't remember exactly what they were trying to figure out, but I taught them to say, I love cow penis. That's what I taught them.
Amazing.
They were walking around signing it like, I learned the sign. And they thought they were signing something else. So I got them really good.
That's so good. That's awesome.
yes, take it back. Well done.
This is for all of you. What was your favorite episode that was about your character?
That's a good one.
I'll start. My first episode was, I think, the most memorable for me. It was a first for so many things. It was the only episode I got to do like a little bit of stunt work, and I come from a stunts background, so that was fun. I got to outrun Jared in a foot race. That was also really fun because no one thought I was going to be that fast because I was wearing loafers and jeans. And it was just a first time for, I think, Ben Edlund, who's the guy that wrote and created my character as well. And so it was his first day, and he was really nervous, and so we just kind of like had lunch together, and we're all like, oh yeah, like we're the new kids on the show, and it was just a lot of really nice memories. Oh, and then my first day, Jared became a dad, so that was the whole thing. So like we did this whole scene of like me chasing him around, and he was all nervous and quiet the whole day, and everyone's like, oh man, congratulations, buddy. I had no idea what was going on, and then at the end, he just like, after his last shot, he just got a call. He's like, my wife's in labor. He's like, are you okay to finish the scene by yourself? And very generous of him. And of course I was, and he ran off, and the next time I saw him, he was a dad, and much louder, much more boisterous. He had his confidence back after that. It was a very different Jared.
Oh, that's cute.
Probably my last episode was my favorite. They wrote such a beautiful send off for Garth. He survives, and when they turned me into a werewolf, I thought that it was the end because I thought Dean was gonna have to kill me. They wrote beautiful things for Garth, and just it sort of showed that you could leave that life and find some normality. Although he's a werewolf with this, I don't know how much that is. But it was beautiful, and I read it and I cried. It was just such a love letter to the character. It's called A Hero's Journey. Garth gets to save the day, save Sam and Dean. And so often it was the other way around. And oddly, I always did stunt work. Like in every episode, I always, and I'm like, every time I do that, I was like, are you familiar with my other work? I didn't do this. But they were always like pulling me back on a wire or pushing me through a glass.
God,
yeah,
I'm so
all
jealous.
the time.
I wanted to do that stuff.
And the thing is, when the stunt people overtell you, like I would fall like 4 or 5 times, like, hey, and then they would bring your attention to what you're doing, and then you always get hurt when you think about what you're doing, right?
Yeah,
so like, I would always walk away limping.
And I was just stuck in your houseboat the whole time.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
What was it called?
Garth's houseboat.
No, but it was called something.
Oh,
The
in
boat,
the script, it's Garth's houseboat.
no, but the boat had a name that was sort of an ode to something. I can't remember what the boat was called. Fizzles Falling,
Oh,
after
yeah.
Mr. Fizzles. I still have Mr. Fizzles. I have that puppet. It's in my sock drawer. I dipped him into my luggage once, and it cost about $150 to have him rewoven, so I don't travel with him anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so my favorite episode, that's really a tough question. I think every episode I did was special, but if I had to pick, I would say it was my first episode where I was back in the last season, called Golden Times, which was just beautiful. It just jumped off the page and I read it. And it felt like it was so easy for me to find the emotional journey that Eileen was on. And so it kind of felt parallel to my own personal journey. And I really didn't think I was going to be back. So, when I see that I'm coming back to life in the bathtub and I was going to be, reanimated, it was beautiful to me, the whole scene, the idea. When we were shooting it, I just felt like, I just felt like it was so special to me. And I was, in the present moment in a way that I was involved in my character, which is kind of hard to explain. But that was probably my most special episode for sure.
It was a long time ago, guys. I don't remember.
That is a valid answer.
That is a
You
valid
guys have been
answer.
like talking about these, and I was like, I don't know, they all kind of blend together. Well, I guess maybe my last episode, as I read it, and in my death scene, it was written as the most epic death ever in supernatural history. That's what it said on the page. And I was like, oh, that's nice.
That's a tall order.
How did you
I
die?
know, how did you die?
It was epic. I got stabbed by Dean, and then light escaped my body. Something like that.
Did it feel epic at the time?
It was a long day.
It was an epic day. Dying on camera or like ripping out or anything like that is so embarrassing when you're doing it without the special effects. You're sitting there like growling and making noises, and it's so weird because it's nothing. You're doing it to like nothing.
And
Did you have
in
to
front
do
of
that
all of
live?
your peers.
Yeah.
I had a guy in a green suit pick me up and shake me.
Oh, wow.
That's how my neck broke. So at 3 in the morning in the forest. Not bad.
Did you die? Did you ever die?
I did die.
So everybody's dying on this panel but me on the show.
You had to die?
I did. I
Oh,
lived
you
the whole
just got
time.
turned into a werewolf.
Yeah, but I lived. You can't kill me. You got nighters, kill me.
They killed me like several times.
Yeah. I died 3 times.
I mean, that wasn't the thing about the show, though. You read like, oh, and I die. I'll see you guys next season.
Yeah.
I have a question for Shoshana. I know when there was the deaf actress in the Eternals had to have a laser pointer held with cues when she couldn't see the cameras or see the directors. What types of accommodations changed the way that you were able to act with the show, and how did the cast and crew help make you feel more integrated into the community?
Great question, and thank you for asking. So the special accommodations, what actually was Jason? Yeah, he was my special accommodation. He took it on himself to cue me. We did have an interpreter on set, but sometimes we'd start in different locations, and it was hard to find a cue, didn't know how things were set up. And so we were filming in a bunker, and we had to start, up on the upper level, and the interpreter wasn't able to go up there. And so, I was like, oh shit, I'm here, my interpreter's not here, what do I do next? I said, Jason was like, tap, tap, your turn, you're up, girl. And I was like, okay. So it was really, really nice to work with individuals who you don't have to explain yourself with, who just know how to work with you. And both of them are like that. I'd say both of them are like that. They both had that ease about them. And scheduling sometimes would get a little bit off, and things would get delayed, and the interpreter would have to leave because it conflicted with something she had, because they're on an hourly basis. And so, it's okay, we'll get through this without the interpreter. So Jared would try to interpret for me. So he'd stand up there with his limited sign language that he knew, and he would do his best. Lucky that day, everything was focused on cow pieces, so we're fine.
Yeah, something funny. My best friend growing up was deaf, and he had the situation where he would call, and he had to call, and he would talk, and he loved making the lady on the other end say the most uncomfortable things possible. So I guess my question would be, since I've got to meet you, has there been anything that you've done purposefully to make your interpreter say that's uncomfortable? We already said cow penis, so I'm sure it's right there. And then, has she ever made you say something that you felt was uncomfortable?
Well, you're gonna have to ask her. She's not my usual interpreter. The interpreter who works with me is not able to be here today. But she did go with me to a con in Las Vegas. My normal interpreter did. And so I'll give you an example of what I typically do, which is to say some very nice things about her. I would say some very nice things about her, and she'd have to interpret her own compliments, which is so awkward that she'd have to say, "Oh, I'm so beautiful." And I'm so I love doing that. So actually, you know, it's fun to mess with them that way. Yeah.
That's great.
How do you guys feel after so long and having done so much that it's done, it's over?
It's been over. I feel like that's the thing. I mean, it's always going to be on television, but it's just a part of our jobs. And, you know, we've got a huge body of work and always, I'm personally working towards new things consistently. Osric and I are just about to do a movie together next week that he's producing. So I think we're just busy, and it's all part of, thank you. It's all part of the career and the process.
Yeah, I think my first movie ever, I bawled my eyes out when it was over because it just felt so final and it was the end. And then everyone's like, dude, it's going to happen a lot. You better get used to
Wednesday.
it. Yeah, and it was, it was really sad. But yeah, the longer you do this, it is the end, but it's never the ending. Right? Like everything kind of goes on. Like every show in Vancouver has some member of the Supernatural crew on it.
We can't get away from each
We
other.
can't.
We see each other
I see them all the
time.
time, and it's really nice, right? I'm like, oh my god, hey. I worked with Brooke recently, who is costumes. Kelly, I worked with a lot of costumes. Dean from cameras on a new show that I'm on. You just see them pop up everywhere, and it's cool to see. Like some of them, I would say the saddest thing about Supernatural running for so long is that you had so many people who were assistants that shouldn't have been assistants after 15 years, right? There is just no way to go up if your boss doesn't retire or get promoted further than the boss, right? So after that, everyone just got to do the thing that they should have done years ago, but they stayed on, for loyalty because they love the show and the family. And so now it's cool to see everyone moving up and doing bigger, better things. So, I'm quite happy for the crew to be able to do that.
I cried when it was over. I cry all the time. I've never used to it. I've been working for 23 years, and I still get upset because you'll never have that same group together ever again, and that always strikes me at the very end. I cried when I left this show because also everybody was leaving, and so they play a clip package at the end where they bring you out and then they put a monitor up and play sort of greatest hits and some of your bloopers, stuff like that. And they do that to get you to cry. And so I cried. I didn't cry then, but I cried in the van on the way back, and the driver told me that everybody had done that. But at the same time, we see each other so much that we're on this 40-person text thing, and it's muted.
Because there's a lot of
I
birthdays.
love you, but I don't miss you that much.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's 8:00 in the morning LA time, and they're going at it, and I'm just like, nope.
And it's always just an inappropriate joke.
Yeah.
Do any of you have any props that you kept from the show?
They were terrible about that. And also, so Alexander Calvert, who was at my house last week, and we randomly got on this topic, and they had a yard sale of all of our stuff. And they're selling stuff for $3 and wouldn't let us take anything. I tried to take one of those silver bullet necklaces that my character wore. They wouldn't let me have it. They were selling a bucket of them for $3. But they gave me Mr. Fizzles because Mr. Fizzles, the voice I used to voice the puppet, was the voice I used to talk to my dog in. And my dog was born with too much water in his brain, so he could only walk in a circle. He was like having a giant hamster. His name was George. And they told me he would die at 2 years old. He lived to be 10, but he died right after that episode aired. And they sent me the puppet, which was so sweet. But I tried to take my hunter coat, and they told me I couldn't have it. And I'm like, this is the end of the show. I just want this coat, and they wouldn't let me have it.
Wow.
There was no reshoots that were happening. And I was like, they didn't even send me my chair back. I bet if somebody bought my chair back, I'd be mad.
That was the thing. That's the only thing I usually collect from shows is chairbacks. Where our director's chairback where it says
They didn't give you
show
No.
You should have just taken it.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit, on your last day, just take it.
A lot of shows don't do chair backs anymore. Now they do like a laminated
Oh, yeah.
thing and
They're
they
not as
stick it
nice.
to a chair. It's really shitty. Because they're nice to have.
Yeah, because it makes you feel like you're a part of something.
Yeah.
Because when you guest star on a show, I mean, it's different when you guest star a bunch of times, because after a while on this show especially, you feel like, you're there all the time. But usually you're playing in somebody else's yard. If you do 3 or 4 episodes, it's nice to have this little chair with your name on it, because it's like, hey, you're part of us. You're one of the, one of the crew.
You were important enough for us to put a new name
Yeah,
on
we
the
thought
chair.
about you when you weren't here.
The props department took some time and budget to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's supposed to be probably have it in Cleveland or something.
Probably. Okay, I will say that I have 2 chair backs from Supernatural. The wardrobe department gave me my entire wardrobe set, and I have the death card for Kevin Schmidt that Jared gave me.
Well, yeah.
Why did you give me a $3 necklace?
Sorry.
This must be a thing with me though. Right now, I'm in a lawsuit with Planet Hollywood in Orlando, Florida, because they have my road trip outfit,
How?
and it's contractually mine because it was sold out from underneath me. People they have those yard sales and they sell all their stuff afterward. You know they have those yard sales, and when the shows end, they bring in like friends of the casting. I mean, friends of the crew, and they sell their stuff away.
Yeah, why don't they tell us first?
I don't know, and especially because. So here's the thing. I always take my socks and underwear though. So if they supply socks and underwear, I always take them because years ago I was shooting a movie and they were doing poor man's process where a vehicle was supposed to be moving. So they hung a circular clothing line and put all these different sizes of clothes and different shapes of clothes. And there's a light and they turn it and it casts shadows down the car like it's moving, right? And so I see them setting it up. I'm like, there was this giant pair of underwear, and I'm like, whose underwear were those? Those are Time Dailies. And I'm like, I will always take my underwear from now on because one day there'll be a pair of underwear this big. And who are those? Those are DJ Paul's. I take them all. But I should have taken my chair back.
Absolutely. I should have taken my underwear.
I thought I was the only one. I always take the socks.
Yeah.
Because I've worn them. I'm not gonna leave them there.
It's so gross to leave your underclothing.
I never felt good about it, but
I take everything. Any underwear. I've had to wear thongs before, and that sort of thing, but I don't know that behind.
No one ever gives me underwear. Unless it's like a slip or something. Yeah.
I always feel I'm wearing the wrong underwear for whatever I'm supposed to be doing, so I do ask for underwear a lot.
The value of your underwear on eBay, if somebody goes and he's gonna go through the roof right now.
He's selling it.
I'm totally the market.
Unlimited underwear.
Did you guys have any takes or specific takes where it just took forever because you couldn't stop laughing, like Jensen and Jared were like messing with you throughout the take, or do you have any favorite moments like that?
I don't break. You guys break?
I don't know if I would call it favorite moment, but yeah, I had one where it was last shot of the day. It was Friday. Everyone was like needing to go home. I was about to catch a flight to LA that evening. Jared also had a flight to catch to see his baby, and unfortunately, it was a scene between me and Dean, and Jared had to be there, and so he got bored, and then he discovered that I was ticklish, and there was a table there, so he proceeded to try to tickle me with every single take, and I'm so ticklish around the knees that I kept laughing, and every take I would laugh, and he would kept like digging his foot further and further up my leg, and I know, and it was like, and of course like the whole crew kind of like gets on board, and they're like, Oz, come on, let's do this, and by the end of it, I had to like lock Jared's legs down with my legs while I'm trying to do the scene, and then Jensen jumps in, and then the take we finally get, I have one leg like holding Jensen's legs down, the other leg holding Jared's legs down. So I'm in a really awkward position like this, and I'm just trying to do the scene.
I feel like this will inspire a Tumblr or something.
You're a good wrestler. Actually, I rented a corner in a hotel room once, and you were wrestling with somebody in the middle of the floor.
It was
Remember
tight.
this?
Yeah, it was
It
tight.
was in Las Vegas.
Remember that time you broke Jared's shoulder?
Oh yeah. It was an accident. We were wrestling. We were also bored. Things happen when we're bored. Yeah. No, I wrestled you in a hallway. Remember?
Really?
Yeah.
Are you wrestling me?
No. You were there.
You
were there. I swear, I was wrestling you.
I remember that.
No, you were trying to quit smoking. You're like, I don't want to smoke, and then you had a cigarette. I'm like, DJ, you just told me you didn't want to smoke anymore.
You're a friend. And I have quit smoking.
And I'm really proud of you.
Maybe we could sound like that.
We had a long conversation about you wanting to quit smoking.
I remember this now. I didn't know the difference between deodorant and antiperspirant for a long time, and I think the aluminum oxide and antiperspirant started to affect my brain. But I can't remember things anymore.
What's going on, guys? First off, I just want to say, whenever Kevin died, punched the punch bag so many times that I have scars on my knuckles because of it, because I was so mad and angry. I hated it. But my question to y'all is for me trying to be an actor, I talked to PJ about it earlier. What's some like tips or tricks that you can give us in moving up in the world from acting?
I always feel like start local. Like wherever you are, find a community of creative people, create your own stuff. I love like Felicia Day. I find very inspiring, and I feel like if you want to, forge your own path, she's such a great example of that. But
Get on stage locally, like
yeah,
to make sure that that it's something that you want to do, that you can do. That's how I started, is doing community theater, and then I went down to Atlanta to find your nearest also market if you want to be in film, and there's film everywhere. And just start, get some headshots made for $75 and start sending them out to agencies. But getting experience locally, I think, is really, really important.
and that you'll meet other people in that community that like, oh, I just went to Atlanta and spent 3 months there, and here's a great headshot photographer. So you're just part of the creative community in that way, and you learn a lot more than being on the outside.
I mean, that's what I found. I first moved to Los Angeles. I was in a group. As an actor, I've never been in a group of people that were just doing that one thing.
Right.
And it was great at that time. And then when all your friends become actors, then you get tired of acting bullcrap, and you want to be friends with the crew.
Yeah,
You're
gonna have beers on the
exactly.
camera truck.
But it's really, really good to have contacts and to have friendships with people that are doing what you want to do. Because there's really no mentoring in entertainment. It's sort of like you meet who you meet, right? And there's no set path for anybody. It's all completely different. Like I know journeyman actors who have hit their stride at 50, and some people do one movie, and next thing you know, but you never know.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from all this is community is the biggest thing. I would say that it's a very lonely, or it can be a very lonely lifestyle, but it is a collaboration. Like with every kind of project, the biggest thing that you have to do is work well with people. And if you can't communicate properly, or you don't understand what someone else is trying to get at, you don't know what to bring to the table. So it's meeting people that kind of lift you up when you're having a down day. And if they're having a down day, you step up and you lift them up. And then you share the information. You all kind of figure out what to do collectively to kind of push the boulder up the hill, and then at some point someone's going to make it, and they're going to try to drag everyone up with them because you have that shorthand with them. They know how to work with you. And so like I'm an independent filmmaker. Some of my favorite things that I've done is just because I've been able to work with my friends. And if I get to the point where I have a budget now and I'm producing a film, first time, like, oh, I like Elena. I've worked with her a lot. I know how she does it. Like, she was one of my first thoughts for casting the lead role, and it just worked out with everything else. And so at the end of the day, you're just trying to work with your friends who and they know you, and so you just start by building that community. And as actors, I think you know, it's harder to find that because you're always trying to like, oh, who needs an actor, right? Like we have to do so many things. You have to start writing stories where you can act in it. And then you find someone who's looking for a story. You're like, well, I got a script. You're looking for a script. And they're like, yeah, this is a good script. And then you're like, whoa, there's also an actor in there. And we need to find an actor. And guess what? I'm an actor. And I think I fit the role because the writer wrote that with me in mind because it was me. Yeah. And then you can cast yourself and it's, you know, it just works out. So you just kind of have to step up, offer something, and then at some point someone's going to be looking for what you're offering as well.
I believe Elena mentioned earlier about the movie you're talking about. Is there more you can tell us about that or any other upcoming projects you guys have that you can discuss at this stage?
We have a script, we have a sales agent, we have, we're currently in prep. I'm like, after the day is done, I will go back and have a meeting with my my producing partners, and we're just assembling all of the like art materials. We have our location done, and yeah, you just kind of go and film it. And I'm sure a lot of things are gonna go off the wall, and you're gonna have to find ways to kind of problem solve. But I think producing at the end of the day is just constantly solving problems. I know Elena's has a bunch of projects that she's shopping around, and I am too. I think the both of us kind of have a producer's mindset. I know Elena's directing a movie soon.
I am, yeah. I'm really interested more in directing, but this movie Jonah, it's called, that Osric and I are doing. My son is going to be in it also.
Yeah.
So when Osric called me about it, he's like, and also, does Lincoln want to act? And I was like, I don't know. So I think that'll be really fun. And I'm really putting a lot of emphasis. I just actually submitted myself for the Warner Brothers Directors Program, and I should hear next week. I would be shocked if I didn't get in. I've done like 7 CW shows. That being said, I would be shocked if I did get in. So I have no idea. It would be great. It's not the only way. I'm doing a little Christmas movie in the fall. And yeah, I'm just kind of plugging away towards that.
I'm in Guillermo del Toro's next project.
Can you talk about it?
It's awesome. It's called Cabinet of Curiosity. It's signed a non-disclosure agreement, but it's so fun. He's such a creative guy. And right before the pandemic, I formed my own production company, and our movie just got its full funding. And so I am casting myself. I didn't want to play the part where the money was dependent on me doing it, but we have a firm start date, and now I'm in pre-production.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, it's the natural progression. Like, once you've been doing something for so long, then you want to become this sort of creator of it.
Yeah.
And you know all the right people, right? If that becomes your
It's shocking
circle.
how many people that you know over a career, how many favors you call in.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a bit of dough, but not a ton. And like, we're getting people like Kurt Beach, who's the art director for Lincoln, to do our project.
Wow.
But it's a lot of, after 20 years of doing something, if you don't click the phone, you're like, hey, can you help me? And I also have found this, like, I don't know, I've never done this before. I've never taken something from a script, or before a script, into production. And the amount of people that you can just call and be like, hey, I don't know this. I'm like, oh, you know what you talk to? This really famous guy. And you get a call back. People are willing to help you.
Yeah.
And I'm really shocked by that. Like how sort of altruistic and people like, I did this.
It's a community.
Yeah, it really is though.
So I think every step of the way, like, people help you, right? Like, none of us have succeeded to where we are because we did it ourselves, right? So if you can get a hand up, like, you take it, and then at some point someone's going to need a helping hand, and you have to step up to help them, right? So it's a constantly paying it forward. And to another degree, you also have to create the content you want to see, right? Like, I know Shoshana writes a lot. Elena's kind of starting to write, or like works with a lot of writers. But like, you have to create the content, because I think as actors, you feel really powerless a lot of times because you're just waiting for the right role with the right project in the right city that your reps actually pays attention to and pushes you for it, and then it kind of lines up. Like, it's such a narrow window of opportunity for you to actually work as an actor that it's tough, right? Specifically if you're in any kind of minority. So I think it's contingent upon all of us to write the roles that we want to see on screen, because otherwise we're just waiting for someone to write something for us, and they're not the ones that should be telling our story. Like, we have to do that for ourselves.
Amen to that.
Yes, and I think definitely for everyone here, I just want to say, don't ask for permission. You spend way too long waiting for permission, and I spent too long waiting for someone to give me permission to do what I need to do. And so once I gave myself permission, then I was like, oh shit, I should have done this when we start, Once I started writing the characters that I wanted to see, that got attention. That, I always tell people, people don't know what they don't know until they know it, right? So once I started writing the scripts and writing roles and looking at things on Sundance TV, Marvel saw what I had done. They asked me to help write Echo for them. And so, they realized they needed a deaf writer or a deaf perspective to write for a deaf hero. And so it was really important, though, that you take that first step, to make that happen. The first step is the key. So again, don't ask for permission, do it.
I actually have two things. I want to say thank you for the supernatural parody with the Ghostbusters. That has brought me so much.
That was all the Hollywood girls. They do a fantastic job.
Excellent. But my question is for Shoshana. When you saw the ending of Supernatural, and we got to see Sam go off and have his little kid, and you see the girl on the porch, was that unique?
Well, so it wasn't me directly, right? Obviously, it wasn't me. The way I read it and the way the script was written, as a writer, I read it, and I believe it was supposed to be open for interpretation about who that was. So as a writer, I think it was left open to be who the viewing audience wanted to see that to be. As an actress, well, I wasn't there. I know it wasn't me, like as the actress. But I think it was very open. And for Jared, he was filming with someone else, and I think that when we saw that person, I think that he, I don't think it was supposed to be me. I think it was intended to be vague. I think you're just supposed to see that there was someone there. But I think it was intended to be vague, to left up to the audience's creative minds, to try to please everyone in the families. So at least that's what I think. Yeah, I don't know.
Fans like to give gifts. I was just wondering if you all have ever gotten any really strange gifts from fans?
Yeah.
I got a little artwork of myself. It's nice. I'm like, wow. People are so talented. There's a lot of creative people in this family.
Use the dirt.
I have seen personally a lot of panties. I'm like, wow. They're not for me.
Oh. That's not that. Okay,
Yeah,
so you,
I
you and I
would,
thought
yeah.
you meant the same thing. I thought you were giving me candy.
Okay. People are giving panties, not to me.
Okay. What's the weirdest thing you got?
Me?
Well, anyway, come on.
It's at my table right now. It actually was very thoughtful, but if you want to see it, I'm not going to tell you what it is. But somebody gave me. Wait. Somebody gave me. Oh wow! It's very sweet and very creative.
All right, I'm gonna have to take a look at it.
Come by my table and you'll see it, and I'm not going to say it's for children.
That's expensive.
Dude, it's not made out of gold, but it's gorgeous.
Okay.
But it was a very sweet, very thoughtful. Actually, it's like an art piece, but I can't say what it is on stage because this is for children here. But so if you want to see it and you're over the age of 18, I'll ID you and show it to you.
Okay.
You stand behind me not saying it out loud, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just come.
Keep it clean.
Go by DJ's table later.
Or use your imagination.
Yeah. We'll leave it up to interpretation.
Like it's like what's the glowing, like what's in the glowing suitcase in Pulp Fiction? That's kind of
This is for DJ.
What is it?
In the episode where Jensen danced, the last episode you were in,
Yeah.
did you dance with him? And did you have? He said he didn't know how to dance when they told him he was going to dance. I was wondering if you were in the same boat or.
Jensen was a cheerleader in college. He's a dance background.
But he said he had never danced tap.
No, but so for those of you who don't know, Jensen and I do like a 3-minute tap dance sequence. I was at a convention in Supernatural in Burbank, and one of the producers walked past my table and he was like, "Do you dance?" And I'm like, I can dance, but I can't. I mean, not choreography. I get there, they're like, "Well, we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna teach it to you. You record that." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And then I get there and they send me a 3-minute, fully choreographed tap dancing routine. And I'm like, "You can't do this." With one afternoon of rehearsal, like 2 hours of rehearsal. And so I start panicking. I'm like, you're gonna have to use stunt people and you're gonna have to artfully shoot this. And they want you to learn it. And so Jensen went to the rehearsal at 15 minutes before me. And before he left, he came by and he was like, "Look, me and you we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna give this more practice time." I get there, he gets 15 and has started me. I get there and he knows it.
Oh,
You know, the whole thing, and I don't, and I never learned it until like 5 minutes before we shot it. But they gave me the props and the cane and a hat. I practiced in the hallway in the place I was staying, but it was horrifying because the thing is, producers always do this. They're like, "We want you to learn this thing, but if you don't, we'll shoot around it." When you get there, you don't know the thing, or like you'll get full last minute rewrites. So I'm like, "We're gonna learn it we're gonna shoot it as you learn it." It's always your fault. I once had to do something where I'm playing a cop in the future and everybody speaks Chinese. And in the script, it says that the first line was in Chinese and the rest is accented English. That wasn't the way it went. The first line was in English and the rest was American accented Chinese. And so I'm like, 3 days before I shoot it, they send me the audio track because you have to learn Chinese, like by the sounds of it. It's really, really hard, right?
it's a tonal language.
Yeah.
Very phonetic.
And so they sent me the thing, and I was up until like 3 o'clock in the morning the day before I shot this thing, but I knew it. I get there the next day, and the producer comes up to me, and his face is white, like totally like the blood's running out of it, and he was like, "We sent you the lines for the other character." So I learned the other character's lines. And I was angry, obviously. So I was like, "Fine, you know what we'll have to go line by line. The interpreter will have to be just off camera, and you'll have to pause, tell me the line how to say it." And it was awful. But here's the thing: about halfway through the day, the producers forgot that they did this to me, and I see them walking behind the camera, going, "He can't learn anything." I lost my mind on that. There were some bad words said. Come to my table later. Thank you so much.
I have a question for Shoshana, but I would be really curious about everybody's response to this one. So I'm sure you review your work in order to improve, but how does it make you feel when you see yourself on screen? What is the thought process? How do you feel seeing yourself that way?
I didn't watch that. Y'all watch that? I don't watch myself. Ever. I watch it with my glasses off sometimes.
So you feel uncomfortable then?
I don't see that.
Yeah, I used to watch at least one time the thing that I'm in, but I don't think I watch any of the shows that I'm on.
I can't watch that
Yeah,
stuff. And also,
it's hard.
It's hard to watch your friends. You can't watch your friends pretending.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. So it's not a habit I got into.
It's like hearing your voice on an answering machine, but it's surround sound.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I think that when I was younger, I did watch myself a lot, and I thought that watching myself is going to help me improve, but it doesn't really. I don't think it works out that way. Unless you're in the cutting room, you're in the editing room, and you're actually sitting there and you're, using that take. they don't really, encourage actors and actresses to watch the dailies. They don't really allow the actors to watch the dailies, and that's for a reason. It's done for a reason. So I did my own show this close, and they sent me the dailies, and I was like, "What am I doing here? What is my work doing here as an actress?" It felt so horrible just watching it because they edit around you, and then you're just kind of watching 1 minute here and 1 minute there. It's kind of spaced out. And as an actress or an actor, you are never really aware of what the perspective of what other people are seeing when you're in the moment, right? If you're in the moment and you're acting it and you feel so good about this take, you're putting everything into it, and then you're watching it, and then it's going to get kicked out or it's going to get edited. And then some of the dailies, I watched them and I realized that it was awful. It was awful to watch the dailies, and especially when you thought you've done so well, for a specific part, a specific point. And so I think the process is really to trust yourself and trust the process. And one of the huge part of being an actor is to let go. Really is to let go. You are a smaller part of a larger painting. The director is going to complete the painting. You are a small part. You're not the painter. You are the painting itself. So you are the raw material. So a lot of actors and actresses, as they get older and more experienced, they share this and they stop watching themselves.
It's bad. It inhibits you.
I think you have to watch it from a filmmaker's perspective so you understand why they made the choice that they made. Because I remember the first time I ever heard my own voice was in grade 5 or 5th grade. Sorry, we say grade 5 in Canada. But I cried. I'm like, that's what I sounded like, and I just hated it. And I think we're so quick to look at all the negatives in our own performances. And you're like, this is the best take that I did, and you just look at all the negatives. So I think it's really hard to look at yourself objectively, or certainly it is for me.
I would say even as a filmmaker, to watch rough cut, there's so many layers and elements that are added after the photography, right?
Music is so
Sound design is
important.
huge. The edit,
Color correcting.
color correcting.
Watching uncolor corrected footage, it's like seeing yourself with light overhead light like this in your eyes. You're like this.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre and awful.
But even as a painter, it's to use Shoshana's example there, even that you're kind of like, oh God, that's the movie I made, and then you see it all get put together at the end, and you're like, oh, it's beautiful. So it's just, I think, learning the process. I actually watch myself more now than ever, and I sort of akin it to an athlete watching your tape. So I don't, I think I watch bits and pieces. But it's helpful if you're on an ensemble. It's not all you all the time. I also think, though, the culture of filmmaking, and particularly television lately, has been a lot of it's not glitzy, camera work anymore. A lot of it's raw, a lot of handheld. So I think it's more natural, and it's a little easier to watch that way.
Yeah.
We got time for one more question. Is there one more? Okay.
Hi, I was wondering if there's any Marvel or DC character you guys are more of.
I'm currently Ryan Choi in the Arrowverse. Already playing that.
I don't watch that stuff. I was cast in the first Wolverine movie, the one that Gavin had directed, the terrible one. And was en route from Chicago to lay over to LA to fly to Sydney. And the character was written out in the script. Yeah, I told everybody, I was like, I'm gonna be an X-Men, y'all, and then I wasn't.
I feel like those movies are so big, and I think they'd be really tiring.
I can't watch them.
No, they're too much.
I
like little artsy movies, but I mean, we are at Comic-Con, so probably not a relatable subject.
I watch. Have y'all seen that show on HBO? It's British people making pottery, like the Great British Baking Show, but it's with pottery.
Oh wow!
Can't stop watching it. I like
that is so
kind of
Euro
stuff.
style.
I love that kind of stuff. I There's a show
That is
called My
so
Kitchen-
Comic-Con.
My Kitchen. Check out My Kitchen Rules. I'll show you his best cooking competition. Like that's stuff I watch. When you pretend for your job, I don't know. I like things that are not narrative sometimes.
Yeah, and also like we talk a lot in acting about grounding performances. And it's really hard when so much of these movies are basically graphics, right?
Yeah.
And it takes away from the element of play and showing up and being, I don't know, it's just, there's so many layers that I feel like our craft gets lost a little bit in these big, huge movies. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I would take a job on Marvel. I'm just
Yeah, I mean, you'd be stupid not to.
It's true. I would go with Amadeus Cho. He was probably my favorite character. I love the Hulk. I always have. Ryan Choi. I actually tried to develop that show with CW like 7 years before I actually got the audition and then the job. So that was a really cool moment for me because I had worked with Gail Simone, who created Ryan and the Atom, and it just felt like it all came full circle when I got the job. So very, very happy to be in this position.
All right. Well, on behalf of the Comic Expo, thank you guys so much. I was a radio DJ for 26 years, and I know how hard sometimes it is to make yourself accessible to fans sometimes, but it's so gracious. All the Comic Cons, you kind of, as a fan of you guys too, it's a special thing. So thank y'all for coming. Make sure you go by their booths, get your autographs, pictures. Make some noise for Supernatural one more time.
Thank you. There we go.
we have water here.
Oh, we have water.